I feel more confident and relaxed. I have
Okay.
more peace in my home, in my spirit. I'm happier and more understanding of my children. I have a different perspective of motherhood. I feel like I don't to be have to be as reactive. I can be proactive. I don't feel like I'm just winging it.
Greetings, proactive parents. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today's guest, I have a very special guest, Miss Christina Jones. Christina, for the audience, you mind telling us a little bit about your background? How many siblings you have? Your kids, you married? Just give the people a little bit of background so they can maybe somebody can relate to you.
Yeah, so I have um, a mom and dad, of course. My siblings, I have an older brother. He's a couple years older than me, and then a sister that's we're 13 months apart. Um, I grew up mostly with my parents together, but around probably my preteens, they split up.
Mm,
So I was raised by basically a single mother through my teens, throughout to the time I got out of my house, my mom's house. And now I'm married. We have my husband has an 18-year-old, um, and I have twin girls that are 4 years old, and I have a baby that's 6 months.
okay, very good. So y'all got a nice little family over there.
Yeah, big old family.
Yeah. So I saw it. So did you took the quiz, the parenting style quiz? What you remember what results you have?
So I'm the protective parent,
Okay.
um,
Did
and as also I'm analytical.
okay. Did you agree with the results from the quiz?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
How about the kids? I know one of you got twins. One of is explorer child and analytical child.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of them is like me, which made a lot of sense because a lot of the things she does is what I would do.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then my explorer child, she's like my husband.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it made perfect sense.
very good. Yeah, I always say how children not only inherit our physical features, but they also inherit our internal features, our mental and emotional features. So, all right, so let's get into some of the I got a couple questions already lined up. Before you started working with me, what was parenting like? What was everyday, what was it like before you started working with me?
Well, it was really a lot of it was winging it and doing the best I can to what I knew. Um, the most draining thing was like the bedtime routine. It was like a every night battle, constantly trying to get them to settle in and go to sleep. I don't know if anybody on here that's watching has twins, but you understand the battle. Um, so it can be a lot more challenging with twins, in my opinion, especially if they're sleeping in the same bed. Um, Another draining issue was not knowing how to handle certain issues like tattletelling, um, why I had to threaten or spank them to do things at times, always asking why. And a lot of times I would take things personal as if they were some adult, like they were trying to get me. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Get the best of me. There you go.
right. Yeah, I remember we talked about that, and we realized, they just kids. Maybe they don't think as far as, maybe they're not doing it on purpose. Okay, so before working with me, that was that. What made you decide to take that leap and join the program?
Well, to be honest, like my daily prayer is that I'm walking in the way of God's word, that I'm instilling the biblical principles into my children as far as reproof and correction, is also teaching them and instructing them in the ways of God. And I want to do what's pleasing in God's sight. I want to raise them the right way because I'm held accountable for that at the end of the day. Um, I stumbled across your YouTube, your stories, your examples, your illustrations, the personality tests. They intrigued me, so it made me want to know more. Um, I've heard testimonies of other parents of how how it's helping them and how they're helping each other, just seeing brothers in Christ coming together, and just give that parental advice that just that one piece, a little golden nugget, could change their whole dynamic in their household. Um, my way wasn't working. I was getting burnt out. I was trying to keep an open mind. I used to be really stubborn. I thought that my way was right. It was the only way. But as I've gotten older and matured in Christ, I've learned that I don't know it all. Okay. And I need to humble myself and get that help where I can get it. And I felt like, too, it was an answer to my prayer.
Wow.
So just God intervening with that situation. Also, too, I like the fact that if I signed up then that I have lifetime access to the tools. So that was very intriguing as well.
Okay. Yeah, so you were one of a few parents who came on at the very beginning. And so that's good. But I want to double click on what you said, how you thought at one time that your way was, is my way or the highway. But being able to humble yourself, that's a blessing. Your children are blessed to have you because many parents they never realize that. They never take the perspective of, maybe I can learn something. Maybe, I don't know everything. So it's a blessing to have a mother like that who can humble herself and realize she don't know everything and willing to learn.
That's right. That's right, brother.
So that's good. Okay, so let's get into can you describe a moment where you tried something different and noticed a shift either in yourself or in your child? What was a moment that some of this stuff started to click?
So I have several. The biggest thing was the bedtime. Um,
Okay.
it was every night calling mom and daddy's name constantly. Um, she hit me. She did this. I need more milk. Mama, daddy, I miss you. I love you.
Oh,
Um, getting out of bed, um, things like that. As well as it was just constant back and forth. I was having to go in there and eventually spank them, spare the rod, spoil the child. But obviously, it was not working because me and my husband would do it and they'd go right to sleep. But the thing about it is, when you have to do that every night, something's not working.
right.
We got to do something different. Okay, so we talked about it. We had our discussion one session, and you recommended a reward chart. So what I did was I didn't go out and buy this fancy chart. Okay, kids don't care; they just like being involved and having that interaction. So what I did was I just handmade this paper and made a reward chart with their names and put yes and no column. And if they did good for bed, they could put a smiley face the next morning. If they didn't, it would be an X.
Mm,
And the reason I let them do it was because it makes them want to, it helps them to see what they've done and kind of like self reflect.
right.
So it was working for a few nights, right? Because that twin competition, right? But then it's one of them got up one night or something. I heard them in there, and it's hard for me to go in there right whenever they start making noise because I have my little baby that I'm trying to get to sleep.
Mm,
So I eventually got up and I crept on in there. They didn't really hear me, and when I come around that corner, I saw them out of bed. And normally, like, I would get so frustrated and aggravated, I would immediately spank them and get upset. But this time I said, you know what, I'm gonna try a different approach. Like Devin said, I'm gonna be calm. I'm gonna be firm but calm. And they immediately said, are you gonna spank us? Are you gonna spank us? I said, no, I'm not gonna spank you. We're gonna try something different.
mm,
So from now on, if I have to come in here because you're playing, I will start putting you in your own bed. I will start separating you, and you will be in your bed by yourself. Please don't do that, mommy. Please don't do that, mommy. So I set the expectations. Like you said, set the expectations. And when I left that room, I didn't hear another peep out of them, okay?
Wow.
So I started doing that with the reward chart. And within the past month, I might have had 5 bad nights. But, you know, just like us adults, we have bad days. So
Right.
I don't really see that as it's not working. It's working. It's proven that it's worked. So I'm going to continue to do it. So that's one way that we've been able to resolve one of my issues. Um, Another one was, instead of spanking, try taking away freedom of choice or comfort. So, one of the twins had a bad day at school. Not really a bad day, just with her work. And the other twin had a good day. I
Mm.
said, "Well, I'm gonna try what Devin said. Let's try taking away comfort and freedom of choice." So I decided that I would get their favorite candy, and I gave the twin that did good the piece of candy, and the other one I refrained, and immediately it was waterworks. I
Mm.
mean, it was like I broke her soul in two.
Wow.
Okay, and um, she would keep asking for it and asking for it, and I said, "You're not going to get the candy." And I said, if I hear you, and I explained why, and I said, if I hear you ask again, then you won't get it for the rest of the day. And the biggest thing that I had was I struggled with sticking to my guns at times. So my kids wouldn't take my word for it. And that's probably why they would continue to ask. And that's
Mm.
another thing you taught me. And so I stuck to my guns. She asked me again. I said, you won't get it. You might can get it tomorrow. So I had to learn to mean what I say and say what I mean.
Yeah.
And I learned that giving in, not sticking to my guns and giving in, could probably cost her in her adulthood. It could cost me, right? It could cost me in the future. That's another thing you taught me. Um, you want me to keep going? I got a few more
Yeah, no, I mean,
examples.
whatever. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So one of my children always asks me why, and this is the analytical child that's just like me.
Mm.
Um, I thought she was being disrespectful. I would take it personal that she would always ask why, why, why. And I learned she had the same personality, right? And I often ask why. I don't do it out of disrespect. I genuinely want to know, have the knowledge about something, right?
Exactly.
I want to learn. And I learned that instead of taking it as disrespect, I took it as a teaching moment for my child. I
Mm.
looked at it through a different perspective. And so um, it helped us both get on the same page. So I take that time. I've been intentional about taking that time and teaching her the why to things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's another example.
I
And
want I
then
want to I want to double click or elaborate a little bit on you said something about you realize how giving in and not sticking to your word could affect her adulthood. How this what she learns now in her childhood, how is that going to transition into adulthood? Um, you told me a story recently also about saying no and how they had to learn how to say no. It's okay for them to say no sometimes. Because if they don't learn it now, how are they going to be able to tell people no in the future? If they always got to comply. And I'm not talking about
played out disrespect, no.
right. I'm talking about if maybe you want to play and they don't want to play right now. It's okay for them to say no, I don't want to play right now. Can you elaborate on that a little more about the cost? What is the cost of doing things a certain way, and how would that affect their adulthood? What do you think about that?
So what I think about that is what I'm running into now in my adulthood. I didn't have boundaries and I didn't know how to say no, especially to my parents. And I still struggle with it today because I was a people pleaser.
Mm,
I wanted everyone to be happy. I didn't want any animosity. I wanted peace. I wanted to keep the peace. So I was willing to say yes to things that I didn't really want to do.
Mm.
And that's how it's carried on into my adulthood. However, I've gotten a lot better since I read a boundaries book a couple years ago. I've really set boundaries with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's helped me a lot with my peace. And it's not that I'm being disrespectful, it's just, you know,
You got to live with these
saying
decisions.
no, have boundaries,
Yeah.
be happier. Don't sacrifice your peace just to please others.
Right. Right. Let me say I got what feels the most different now compared to before?
I feel more confident and relaxed. I have
Okay.
more peace in my home, in my spirit. I'm happier and more understanding of my children. I have a different perspective of motherhood. I feel like I don't have to be as reactive. I can be proactive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I'm just winging it. I feel like I have some tools in the toolbox that I can pull out when I need to, and I definitely still have moments where I pause, where I'm like, God, what do I do in this moment? I don't know how to teach them, so it's a constant thing that I'm having to pray to God for. About certain things that I still battle with them. They're children. It's not always going to be the same thing. There's going to be new things that arise, new conflicts that arise, and just learning how to tackle those head on. But I definitely have more peace. I'm telling you, I just can't even explain it.
Yeah.
A peace that surpasses all understanding. There you go.
Okay, yeah. Peace. What do you think about community? You said how they're still children and they're still growing. There's new things all the time. I mean, if they were they 4 years old now, eventually they'll be 5 years old, Lord willing, then 6 years old. There's new things as life goes up. What do you think about the value of community? And some parents might have already went through that phase that you are currently going into. How do you think that community plays into that? Maybe, what do you think
I
about that?
think it's important because there's so many different households, so many different dynamics. There may be other parents that have children that have the same personality as yours, and you can leverage off of them. Hey, I'm having issues with this. Is there something that you could recommend that was successful with your child, since they have the same personality, kind of thing?
Hmm.
It's also community for encouragement to uplift one another, to not feel like you're defeated. In motherhood, but having those people to connect with and have that encouragement, and have those little golden nuggets of advice is really priceless.
I agree. I agree. You mentioned things feeling more peaceful. What does that peace look like now from day to day? What were some, I know you talked about the bedtime uh extravaganza, bedtime shenanigans. What about what does peace look like now?
So peace looks like they're sharing toys better, right? So we have
Okay.
this phrase where you told me we work together on that, was we're stronger together. They're working better as a team versus against each other. There's still sibling conflict. You're going to have that. It's not going to be perfect, but it's gotten a lot better because I'm constantly reminding them of that. You have to remind children at
Right.
that age of things like that. It's like you have to hold their hand a little bit and teach them how to do something until they develop that habit, and it comes like second nature. That's
Right.
kind of what I'm doing. I'm nurturing it. um, they're starting to encourage one another not to do certain things, instead of running straight to mom and daddy and tell on them.
Right.
They're starting to encourage one another not to do things that would get them in trouble. Of course, if they're in danger or something, I've taught them, or if they're uncomfortable or somebody's touched them, of course they know to immediately come tell me. But this is things like don't jump off the bed kind of thing, telling her sister you shouldn't jump off the bed kind of thing. That's an example. More respect and mannerisms for my children. I've noticed a change in um, their dynamic, and it might be because I've been more intentional, that they're not seeking attention as
Mm.
much, because I've took the time to sit and teach them instead of being in such a rush all the time.
Yeah.
Um, Having the reward chart was something. Go ahead.
No, before you said that you used to be in a rush and now you take the time to teach them. You talked about let's talk a little bit more about the sibling rivalry. You told me how they used to constantly tattle on each other. They was constantly in competition. If you ask one of them to go get something, the other one is trying to cut her off because I guess because she wants the attention. She wants to be the one. I did it for you. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk a little more about the competition and the rivalry, how it used to be versus how it is now? What can you tell me a story? You told me a story about something about some Pop Tarts and something about little green peas on the floor. What was that about?
Okay, so I was getting my infant to bed one night and I came in the living room and my kids were eating Pop Tarts. They don't normally get stuff out without asking me, so I was kind of taken back, but I didn't get angry. And I asked them, I said, "Did you ask me for that Pop Tart?" And one of the twins, she immediately blamed her sister, but she
Mm,
had the Pop Tart in her hand, just like her other sister.
right, so she guilty by association. You want to point the finger, but you guilty too.
Yeah, I told her, I said, you are partaking because you are partaking in that because you have the Pop Tart in front of you. Um, just because your sister gave you one half of the Pop Tart doesn't mean you aren't guilty.
Yeah.
And she looked down, and I could tell I got her to the heart because she looked down and she didn't know what to say at that point. Normally she would battle back and forth with me, not disrespectfully, but try to make excuses. And she looked away and she wouldn't say anything to me. But I could tell that it had her wheels turning from that conversation.
Right. So instead of her being um trying to get her sister in trouble, she realized that you are an accomplice. Don't be trying to get other people in trouble. Check your own self.
Yeah, it made her do a self reflection.
Yeah. How about the little peas on the floor? What's the story behind that?
So the girls, they had put their plates up in the sink after they ate, and I saw a garden pea, a sweet pea on the floor.
Mm,
Okay. And normally I would just pick it up and keep it moving. But I've been more intentional about making them be more responsible. Um, because they can't rely on me to do everything. And that's another thing you've taught me. Give them more independence.
right.
So one of them ate all their peas and one of them didn't.
Mm,
I said, can somebody pick up this pea off the floor? I should have addressed the name, which we talked about, but I didn't.
mm,
And immediately, the analytical child, just like me, that always tells on her sister, she said, "It's her pee." I said, "Well, how do you know it's not your pee?" She said, "Because I saw her eat all her peas." I said, "Well, who didn't eat all their peas?"
right.
She said, "Me." I said, "So if your sister ate all her peas and you didn't eat all your peas, then why wouldn't it be your pee?" She said, "No, it's my sister's." I said, "That don't sound right." And so she said, "Well, how about you say any, mini, mighty, mo?" And so her sister, I think her sister got sick of hearing it. So her sister, the one that was not arguing or complaining, she went and picked it up. And so what I did was, you said, start praising and validating the good behavior as well.
Right.
Not just the bad behavior, not just giving attention to the bad behavior, but, being intentional about praising the good behavior. So I validated and I praised her. And the one that was blaming her sister said, "I want a job." I said, "Well, I told you to pick up the pee and you wouldn't do it. That was the job."
Right.
And so that one, the one that was tattletelling, she likes to have constant validation, praise. She wants to be the leader. Obviously, that wasn't a leader moment, but
Right.
it made her obviously do a self-reflection immediately because she was like, well, I want that praise and I want that validation. So then she wanted to do something.
Right. Right. That's good. I'm glad that you were able to take her down that line of questioning. I'm glad you were able to take her down that line of questioning, because analytical child, they constantly asking why. So a way to flip it on them is to ask them why and take them down a line of logic. But so okay, so that was like what the conflict or the rivalry was before, and then I think you had a talk with them one on one, or did you do a talk all together?
I did one on one and I did all together, just explaining them that we're stronger together, that we only get one family, that we all need to get along and love and trust one another. And I always use the example of you don't see mommy and daddy hit each other, you don't see mommy and daddy argue. You see mama and daddy loving one another, and they can attest to that, you know.
Mm,
So I just use that as an example to try to get us all on the same page. I tell them that we're not always going to be here. You know, mom and daddy won't always be here, and you need to. You one day you're only going to have your siblings, so
mm,
you need to love one another. You only get one set, so
right. And so now, how have they been now? Has the rivalry calmed down a little bit?
it's calmed down more than it was. Yes,
Okay, but of course it's not 100%.
yeah, not 100%, but they're doing better. They're learning. I'm just constantly reiterating what we've discussed.
Right. Okay, let me see. I got two more questions that preloaded. What do you understand now about your child or about yourself that you didn't before?
Um, so one of my twins is like me. I couldn't understand why she wanted to be the leader and needed validation or compared herself to others. And
Mm,
I realized, well, I'm that same way. Um, so I started putting myself in her shoes like you taught me and asking myself in those moments, what would I want to hear in this moment? What would I need to hear? And that's helped me get on the same page with her.
yeah.
Um, Then one of my twins is an explorer child, and she experiences the world through movement. Um, One morning, I told her, I said, I need to put some cream, some Aquaphor on your face because it was dry. Um, and she told me no. Well, normally I would take that as disrespect, and I would immediately demand that she do what I say.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because I feel like I don't know why I've always thought that the wrath was what God expected.
Mm,
But God isn't always wrath. He shows mercy and grace and love. And He gives us time and time again. He's teaching us. Um, he's given us that grace even when we mess up.
hmm.
Being that loving parent, and I don't know if some of it comes from maybe what I got from my one of my parents. Um, Maybe I'm thinking that's the way to get the love, but I should know by now it's not. I have to take that time to teach them, and be intentional. But anyway, so instead of immediately getting upset and taking it as disrespect, I took your advice, and what I did was I led with empathy,
Mm,
um, to get that connection with her, um, and I told her, I said, look, I told her, I said, it's not, I asked her, first I asked why. You said, start asking why. So I said, why don't you want me to put this cream on your face? Or why don't you want me to wipe your face? And she said, because the toilet paper hurts. I said, but this is a baby wipe. I promise this won't hurt. And I gently did it. And she smiled really big and ran right over to me. And it was just that little detail that she needed to hear, that I needed to hear, to just change the whole dynamic.
wow.
Instead of getting angry and forcing her to do it and her having a temper tantrum and we're both having a meltdown. Um, yeah, that was a special moment that really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I could be doing. um I learned to set expectations and follow through with those expectations. I've learned to take away the freedom of choice or comfort as the consequences versus going straight to the rod. And I started asking my kids why, and it's helped me resolve issues quicker versus being reactive. I promise you, please put that in your toolbox. Start asking why and don't immediately just get angry because you take it as disrespect. I've learned through keeping that open mind that it's not always disrespect. She simply just wanted me to use something more gentle that didn't hurt her face.
Wow. Asking why.
This is so important. It is that has been a game changer for me.
Asking why. Yeah, some people say how you were talking about earlier, you still can learn things, and you could even learn things from the kids. Asking why.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so we're gonna start to land the plane now. If there was another parent watching this who felt overwhelmed or unsure of what to do next, what would you want them to hear?
I would say take the next step, take that leap of faith. My biggest thing is to please God in all that I do. I only get one shot at raising my kids, and I want to do it right. I don't want to live with regret in the future. Well, I should have done this. I should have done that. I want to be proactive and be ahead of it, and try to get the best tools I can, to raise them the right way and not just always what I think, because there's other people that have raised children that um, are grown children now that they might have some wisdom that they could give me that would help me with my children. Um, Also, my kids and I were close before this, but we're even closer now.
Nice.
Um, I'm able to understand their personality better and learning how to be more proactive than reactive. Um, I'm still learning, but I've learned more how to reach their heart and teach them versus getting angry and frustrated because I don't understand why they're doing stuff.
Mm,
Um, I took how they acted personal and expected them to know how to act. I just expect them to know how to act like they're just some full grown mature adult, okay?
right.
And we're still not perfect. And so I realized too that children are immature and they're not wired like we are. So that really humbled. It's really been humbling.
To
A lot of it
to
has
realize
really
that,
humbled me
yeah.
and made me self reflect.
Wow. You say the children are still immature. They don't know. How else would they know if we don't teach them?
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, thank you for all your contributions, Christina. If before we land the plane, before we close it out, do you have any following words, any closing words? What would you say to what would you say to your younger self? If you could go back and tell young Christina something about parenting and what lies ahead. And in fact, what are you looking forward to in the future as you continue on this parenting journey?
My
What do you,
biggest thing is learning more about how I can be a better parent biblically.
yeah,
My biggest thing is standing on God's word and doing it the way God wants me to do it. And just being able to learn from others is my biggest thing. And also, too, whenever I had my twins, my brain was not fully mature yet. And I didn't know that until I started this. It doesn't fully mature until you're 25. So a lot of my immaturity and stubbornness probably come from that, me thinking I know it all. Um, but yeah, the biggest thing is just I look forward to what's going to take place in the class and the community and learning from others and just learning how to be a more proactive parent.
fantastic. Thanks a lot, Christina. Guys, audience, you heard it. I hope you got some value out of this episode. And Lord willing, I'll be seeing you soon on the YouTube and on the internet, and maybe I'll see you in school. And yeah, thank you for your time, Christina.
Thank you for your time. I enjoyed it.
Me too.